This is a TalkStation original podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
We are joined by former Carteret County Public Schools Administrator and current CEO of the Pat Tillman Foundation, Dr. Katherine Steele. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Boy, that's a mouthful. You've got a lot of titles to your name there. Do we go with Katherine or do we go with Dr. Steele?
Please go with Katherine.
See, that's humility right there. If I had a doctorate, do you know what people would be calling me?
Oh, it'd be forever.
I would be Dr. J, actually. I wouldn't be Dr. Smith because I wouldn't want people to call me Dr. J.
That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of having a doctorate and having a name that starts with J if you wouldn't be called Dr. J? So Katherine is in a very elite territory when it comes to Carteret County Public Schools. She's not in Joe Paletti territory because he was the only person ever to be the principal of all three, but she was assistant principal at Croatan, assistant principal at West Carteret, and principal at East Carteret. So she's not one of one, but you might be one of two because other than you and Joe, I don't know if anybody else did all three. So congratulations.
No worries. I like being looped in with Joe anyway, so he was my first mentor in Carteret County. So
nice.
Good company for sure.
Well, Zach and I, we get to know these administrators like Joe Paletti or Joe Poe, as we like to call him, and Katherine, and I mean, the list is long. You can go back to Ralph Holloway at East Carteret, Carolyn Heller, Mrs. Z, Kay Zimmerino, Corey Johnson, even back to Matt Bottoms. That's how long me and Zach have been covering sports in Carteret County. And inevitably, we're talking to administrators because there has to be school personnel at these ball games, which cracks me up now that I'm thinking about it. If we put a story on social media about, teachers wanting a supplement increase or a raise or a benefit, somebody inevitably says, well, why? They're only there from 8 to 3 and they get their summers off. And I'm like, no.
It is a long day.
Yeah, I'm standing next to someone and it's 10 p.m. on a Tuesday and they've been here since 7 a.m.
100%.
So they've been here a long time. So at all these ball games, we get to know these administrators from August to May. And so we got to know Katherine, and being you were at all three schools, would you like to come in hot and rank those schools from best to worst, Katherine?
I'm smart enough to not do that, so I'm not taking the bait. Will not do that at all.
I think our listens would go real high if she started off just doing that and really ranking them, really going to
just
detail.
Let them know. Yeah.
So I get hate mail. I'm not doing that at all. I'm not doing it.
So I wanted to share a story real quick about Katherine that she's not aware of. And like I said, we get to know these administrators. And so I remember hearing a story that she had gotten a job outside of the county. I think maybe, had you taken a job with FedEx? Is that right?
Yeah, FedEx.
Okay. And so I'm like, oh, that's a shame. Everybody loved her in Carteret County. She seemed to be doing such a great job, but, good for her. And then it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And then a couple years ago, I'm watching the NFL draft. And it's like day 2 or day 3, and they're bringing all these different groups up on the stage. It's, boys and girls clubs and Boy Scouts and flag football teams from all over the country, you name it. And they bring the Pat Tillman Foundation up. And I just about come off the couch because there's a woman with this group that I am 100% sure that I know, but I cannot grasp how I know someone who's on stage at the NFL draft.
Why would you?
Yeah, why would I there's no context whatsoever. And I'm pacing in front of the television. Am I having an episode? I think I know this person, but there's no way I can know this person. And then finally, after about 5 minutes, it hits me upside the head like a frying pan. That is Katherine Steele. Oh, my God. She's at the NFL draft and with the Pat Tillman Foundation. And then I Google her, and there she is. She's with the Pat Tillman Foundation. So I guess we'll just lead off with that. What's it like being on stage at the NFL draft and hobnobbing with the NFL elite?
It's pretty fun. I have to say, I will tell you, too, that my mother had the same reaction. I didn't tell her I was going to do that.
Oh, wow.
She saw it on TV. So she was like, wait, what is happening? And the number of people that reached out and they were like, I think I just saw you on television. I'm like, yeah, I know. Welcome to my new life, for sure. It's phenomenal, honestly. We're really lucky at the Pat Tillman Foundation. We have a strong relationship with the NFL, and we have really good relationships with, all of the clubs. And so we have unique opportunities to provide access to moments like that where we get Sometimes I get to be on the stage. Sometimes I get to bring Tillman scholars, who are veterans, active duty, and military spouses, to do fun things. But it's something cool to be backstage with, all the media and stuff. And they're like, all right, go ahead. I'll say, fun fact, I was just going to go on stage. I had 2 people with me that were going to read the draft card. And they said, hey, would you mind saying something when you go out there? And I was like, what? And they're like, just say something, like talk for like 30 seconds. And then they said, okay, go. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm talking on this national stage right now. But yeah, great experience, and super excited. You'll see me. We're doing some stuff at the Super Bowl next year too. So,
oh wow!
Keep an eye out. Yeah.
How about that? So, well, I'm number one. I'm glad to know that I wasn't the only person who thought he was losing his mind on a random Saturday in April, and also I'm happy to know that your phone was blowing up. I'm assuming that your phone has never blown up at any time in your life like it did that weekend.
That was pretty busy then. I also we work with ESPN, and so we got to do some work at the ESPYs, and so had some photos hit the media about me at the ESPYs. I got a lot of phone calls then too. So.
Yeah, wow, very cool. So as mentioned before, Katherine is the CEO of the Pat Tillman Foundation, but your history with the foundation goes back much further than since you've just started working for them, right?
Yeah, so what the foundation does is they, every year, they pick a group of Tillman scholars. And again, you're eligible to be a Tillman scholar if you're a veteran, active duty, or a military spouse. I was a military spouse and so applied to become a Tillman scholar. Super competitive process, and in 2014, I was selected. And so they actually paid for me to go to graduate school. I was at George Washington University. But the thing that's like the most extraordinary opportunity is for over a decade, I've been a part of this incredible organization that continues to support these Tillman scholars, not just with scholarships, but leadership development and mentorship and career architecture and event opportunities and engagement. And so for about a decade, I've just been on the receiving end of the goodness that this foundation does day in and day out for this community. And I joke that I just kept showing up, so they finally gave me a job. So now I get to work on staff and try and give back to others.
Was there a point that when you were dealing with the foundation that you thought, wow, that would be a cool place to work?
I think I always was inspired by the team and the staff that, does this work day in and day out. Like, it's passion-driven work, and so I always loved what they were doing. I had a career trajectory, right? Like, I'm a high school principal. Like, this is what I do. Why would I go work at a nonprofit? And even when I did make that pivot, to FedEx, I pivoted there, but I was running learning and development. And so it was still, right, education related. I'm just not working with high schoolers anymore. I'm working with adults. This switch for me was just an opportunity to pivot because of passion. And, it's rare that I think we get to do passion-driven work. And when the opportunity came up, I was like, how could you say no to do something that is going to make an impact that you're just truly passionate about? And so I jumped at the opportunity, which is crazy to pivot into nonprofit land, but it is one of the most rewarding things I've done.
Yeah, I'm sure it was difficult walking away from teaching, and when you transitioned into FedEx and you took a leap, and sometimes we get to a point in our life where we have to take a leap, but it gets rewarded. Of course, you talk about your military spouse background. You were on the Spouse Advisory Council with the Military Officers Association of America, so you certainly had that background and understanding. And then when this comes along, did it feel like this was waiting for, now that you're in it, did you feel like this was waiting for you when you took that leap of kind of uncertainty, not knowing where, you took a leap, but not knowing where you're going to land? Do you feel like you've landed in the place that was sort of waiting for you?
Yeah, I do. I reference this in conversations frequently. I think there's so much power in the pivot, right? And so I think every choice that I made to, whether it was to move to a job at a different high school or move to FedEx or take this, was recognizing that there's an opportunity, being willing to pivot and take that leap. I will say everything that I've done beforehand has made me more well-equipped for the job I have today, right? My experience in Carteret County has shaped me into a better leader, helped me understand the dynamics of running, right, large teams and organizations. And so I look at where I am now, and, I have day-to-day engagements, and there will be moments I'm like, I can handle this situation because I remember what it was like when I was at East Carteret High School and we were trying to solve this problem or do this thing or put a team together. And so you get to pull from those experiences.
Well, in case somehow, some way, there's someone listening to this that isn't familiar with Pat Tillman, or maybe they have some vague recollection of who he was, give us a reminder of who exactly Pat Tillman was.
Yeah, so Pat, during college, played at Arizona State University. He's just an incredible athlete. Ended up getting drafted 226th pick in the NFL draft, and went to the Arizona Cardinals. So was playing with Cardinals in the NFL, was doing great, had a lucrative career, actually was in the middle of negotiations to go to Seattle, and 9/11 happened. And I think like so many people that made the decision to serve, it was just a moment, right, where you're like, this is horrible, and how can I help, and how can I make an impact? And he thought about it. Eventually, he walked away from the NFL and his NFL contract and enlisted in the Army with his brother and became an Army Ranger. And he's like, I need to do something. And there's a famous interview of him saying, you know what, I just realized I looked around and I hadn't really done a damn thing. And here's my chance, right? And this is someone that's on the big stage, right, at the big game all of the time. And he made a decision. So went and served, was on his last tour and ended up getting killed while serving. And that really spurred this organization as it is today. Friends and family came together and said, we've got to do something to carry on Pat's legacy. And so they started the foundation. And we talk about it. Pat did so much good and represented like what like true leadership and service looks like. We're here as a foundation 21 years later because Pat lived, and we get to see this ripple effect of a legacy. And now I have, right, almost 1,000 Tillman scholars in this organization that are just trying to do good in their communities and make an impact. And, like, what a great thing to be able to be a part of. So, like, every day when I walk into the office in Chicago, we've got, Pat's name on the door, and it's like this wonderful reminder of like this legacy that we're caretakers of, this legacy that we get the privilege to be a part of. And I think for anybody that's listening, whether you knew Pat's story or not, like look at it like, what are you doing to make an impact? How can you make an impact? How can you carry on a legacy? And that can look different for everybody, but the idea is do something. Do the thing so that you can look back and say, I am doing something and I am making a difference.
Yeah, a lot of the key words you used there really stood out to me. I would imagine when you work for a foundation who has a name attached to it, like Pat Tillman, who led his life with so much integrity and character and made the ultimate sacrifice to serve his country in a time of need, that to work for this foundation would bring with it some responsibility and weight that you feel to make sure that you do carry on his legacy in the right way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an immense responsibility. We pick these Tillman scholars because they represent service beyond self, because they represent impact and scholarship. And we'd like to know that we're investing in these humans that feel the weight of that responsibility day in and day out, and we get to watch them execute against it. And again, there's so much going on in the world. I think what all of us can agree on is what we need are great leaders, right? It's what people are doing in Carteret County, right, day in and day out of the school system. We're working to create leaders, right? Like that's why these teachers are there. That's why those administrators are there. And so for me to be able to get to work with these humans that were great leaders, right, when they obviously served both in and out of uniform, but I get to go and have conversations with people and be like, hey, invest in them. Invest in what we're doing here because we need more leaders in the world. And I get to be a part of that, just not in the school system anymore. Yeah,
you can look at the impact report from 2024 for the foundation. The majority of the kids that are graduating from these scholarships have gone into healthcare, they've gone into public service and the STEM fields and humanities, law and education. And like you said, you're really targeting these people who are wanting to make a difference because that's in line with the foundation's, legacy.
Yeah, and it's great. And, we get to raise money every year to be able to resource them so that they can do those things and make an impact. And I mean, we've been around for 21 years, the Tillman Scholar Program since 2009, and we've given out over $40 million in funding opportunities to those Tillman Scholars.
Is that the main thrust of the foundation, Katherine, the scholarships?
No, so we spent obviously a lot of money on scholarships, but it's more than that. So we also pour into leadership development opportunities. I'm actually in Washington, D.C. as I talk to you right now. I have 25 Tillman Scholars that are in a room going for a leadership development 2-day session here with an organization called Beneath the Service that is created by and led by 2 West Point graduates. And so, we get to do things like this. We sent scholars last month to California for a wellness retreat where they were surfing and tackling and addressing issues of PTSD. So there's so many things that we do. We send scholars to mentorship opportunities and internships and job opportunities. The idea is we want to do more than just give them money for school. We want to be with them on their leadership journey, and that goes well beyond their graduation date.
I see that. I think it was the report Zach was referring to. I think you all raise about $6.5 million every year. I would imagine it's quite consuming to be constantly fundraising. I would imagine your days and nights are consumed with how can we generate income to do more good in the world.
Yeah, it's wild. So I took over as CEO about 1.5 years ago. That first year we grew revenue by about $1 million. We're on track to hit probably 7 or 7.2 this year. And our goal in the next 3 years is to get to $15 million a year because we want to continue to provide more opportunities for these scholars to do the things that they want to do in the world. And, that takes money. It takes effort. Never thought that I would be a fundraiser. But I will say it's a really easy conversation to have when I talk to somebody, whether that's an individual that's like, hey, I just want to, I want to give $50 to something that matters to me, and I tell them what we do. And then sometimes I have conversation with somebody that's like, hey, I have $1 million and I want to invest. And it's easy, again, to talk about legacy and ripple effect, and at the end of the day, leadership, and that's what we get to be a part of.
I'm sure you probably have a number, but is there a couple of stories that jump out at you with these Tillman Scholars that just warm the cold cockles of your heart to know these wonderful stories of people coming from this place and you've helped them get to this place?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a community of support, which is phenomenal. I will share probably one of our more well-known Tillman Scholars, and if you're not aware, go ahead and look up the story. But Dr. Johnny Kim, who incredible background, not only was a Navy SEAL, but also was a doctor, also was a pilot, and is now currently a NASA astronaut who is in space on the ISS right now. So we actually had an opportunity probably about 1.5 months ago. I had about 70 Tillman Scholars on a Microsoft Teams call with Johnny Kim from the ISS space station, and he talked to us for about an hour and gave us a tour of the space station, and we got to look at him and then out the window down at Earth while on the phone call. But again, that's it's incredible to be surrounded by someone, right, that has just done so much and leans in to constantly say, how can I do more? How can I make an impact? So pretty phenomenal story for sure. But I think, we have so many unique stories that look different, right? Not everybody needs to be a NASA astronaut.
He set the bar high, literally, right?
Yeah. We're always like, oh man, I need to try harder, apparently. But, we have other incredible scholars that are doing things that still matter and make an impact and make a difference. And I think that's what's pretty phenomenal. We've got two of our scholars actually have started a company together because they got connected at one of our events and started having some conversations. And so they, have started this company and they're winning awards. It's called IntuiBlade. Both medical professionals, business professionals that came up with a new device for intubating patients, and they're again being recognized and winning awards. I have another scholar that is a filmmaker, and he goes out and he does documentary and work, and he just did a story actually about 9/11 and about a service dog that was named after someone that had died during 9/11 and has followed the journey of that service dog and what that looks like. So just, again, impact looks different to so many people. The challenge to anybody listening is, what's the impact that you're making? What are you going to do today, and what can you do better tomorrow?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I'm looking at the resume for Johnny Kim here, and what a, you're reading these things and you're thinking, this is one of the most impressive people I've ever read about here. And, it reminds me a lot of sometimes the position we find ourselves on this podcast or in news, where we're talking to some extraordinary individuals who are leading these incredible lives, and how fun it is to get a chance to talk to these people and hear their stories. And of course, on your end, to be able to help them on that leadership journey to transition to their next step. And it's just an incredible slate of people who are well deserving and are doing great things. And I'm sure it's, like you said, message driven job. I'm sure that's just a huge perk for what you're doing there.
Huge perk, right? Like, I just get to talk about cool people doing cool things and get other people involved, right? And say, hey, do you want to be a part of this cool thing that we're doing over here? So yeah, it is an easy conversation to have, and one that I enjoy being able to have day in and day out. I'm
so curious, obviously you got into teaching, and how did you end up in Carteret County to begin with?
The military. So, military spouse. And so my husband at the time was in the Marine Corps, was a Harrier pilot. And so, yeah, got stationed there. Had been there actually a couple times before. I had worked actually at New Bern High School.
Yeah, you were an English teacher
as well. I was an English teacher on an earlier iteration of my K-12 journey. So yeah, ended up there, and then got divorced, but had 2 kids, and just Carteret County felt like home. And we had moved so frequently for so many years with the military. And it was just important that we found a place that we could root ourselves. It was a great opportunity for me, obviously professionally, to be able to stay in Carteret County and try to be a part of the community. But for my kids too, they both went to Croatan High School, loved the connections and the relationships they built there. They still come back and visit, and they have friends that are there. My daughter is actually getting married to a classmate from Croatan High School. So, yeah, it's great. So I think, for my kids, when you ask them, where are you from? A lot of people live the same place, right? I was born here and I lived here forever. My kids move so frequently. They both will say they're from North Carolina, and I think that's special.
Do you still have a home here, or do you still, obviously you probably don't live here anymore. Do you visit often, or?
I don't visit often. I wish I did. I will say I'm very connected to a lot of my Croatan family. If any of them are listening, if I haven't talked to those that were there with my kids, and if you call me. But I do have interactions with folks from, obviously all 3 of the schools in the county, for sure. It is, you talked earlier about the NFL draft and the messages I received. I would say I had more incoming messages from people that I met in Carteret County than anywhere else that I lived across the country during all of the frequent moves. And I think that's a testament to the kind of people that we have in Carteret County and how lovely they are.
Your resume is a lot of fun to look at. English teacher, like we said, principal, FedEx HR, FedEx design, and then administration for Pat Tillman, now CEO. What are some of the things that, that's a lot of different types of jobs. Is there a connecting thing that you've learned or you've picked up from those different jobs that still applies?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the thread for me throughout all of the things that I've done has been this connectivity with people and how I can try to make a difference or an impact to the people that I get to work with, right? So obviously sometimes that may have been 3rd graders, and sometimes that may have been the football team or a football coach or other teachers. Sometimes that was dock workers, right, at a service center with FedEx. And now it just is these incredible veterans and active duty and military spouses. But it's about how can I make their lives, their opportunities better. And that's the thing that I love to be able to do, is to go in and say, hey, there's growth here. There's an opportunity here. Let's figure out how we can do that.
Give us a little insight into your background. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? That kind of good stuff.
Yeah, grew up in Seattle, Washington, actually. So went to undergrad in Seattle at Seattle Pacific University. Ended up moving, got married, moved, and geez, I don't even know that I could list all of the places. I want to say in the first 20 years, I think we had moved as a family like 17 different times. But I know it's crazy. Welcome to the military life. Yeah, so lots of movement. Ended up, like I said, in 2014 when I got selected as a Tillman Scholar. Went to George Washington University. Was living in D.C. at the time to get my graduate degree. Ended up going back to school because I'm a nerd. That's probably the best description of me. Just love school. Actually went back to school to get my doctorate at Vanderbilt University. And so, yeah, did that and had a great experience. I like to constantly try to be better. And for me, that has, played itself out through educational opportunities, through job opportunities. But yeah, I've been everywhere and have done probably a little bit of everything.
I think she's the first doctor we've had on, so she's got that going for her.
Yeah.
All right, what about life in
I'm not Dr. J. But, yeah.
what about life in Chicago? How do we enjoy that?
Love it. It's so great. I mean, Chicago is it's just a really great city. Highly recommend everybody come and visit. I would avoid the winter because that's an experience for sure. But no, I love it. I think Chicago as a city has really opened its arms to the Pat Tillman Foundation, and so we've built a lot of really great relationships there, not only with organizations, but with a lot of, our sports clubs there, which is great. We're doing an event with the Chicago Blackhawks in a couple weeks. We did something with the Chicago Bears. So that's always a fun time for sure. But, yeah, it's a good home for the foundation. It's central. We have people that work for the foundation all over the country. We obviously do a lot of work in Arizona because of Pat's ties. For sure. But yeah, no, I'm glad to be there. And, I do miss the beaches of Carteret County. We do have Lake Michigan though, and there is a beach there. So it's a little, it's different, same, but different.
Well, I was going to say, do you think you might like thousands and thousands before you spend your retirement years in Carteret County?
There's a good chance, honestly. You never know. And at this point, I'm up for anything. So, would love to get to a point where I can, have a second home on the beach somewhere in North Carolina. Would be fantastic. But yeah, for now I'm in Chicago, and I get to travel all the time, like great places and see the country.
Nice. Well, Katherine, congratulations on the important work that you're doing with the Pat Tillman Foundation. Thank you for your service to Carteret County Public Schools, and thank you for spending some time with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was great. Hi to all of the listeners. I miss you all. Yeah, I wish all of the high schools the best of luck in the sports season.
Awesome. Thank you much.